everyone, I am Chris. This is Simply Classic, and today we're going to do another American Stitchers pattern. We're slowly getting through all of them, and today's going to be the Annie O. So this is the bag that we're going to make in today's tutorial. It is a fairly large bag. It is a crossbody bag. You could certainly change this to a shoulder strap if you'd like to, but the bag is, good size. I love the bag because it's got a great front pocket here, which would be amazing for a cell phone, and it's the whole width of the bag. Really nice big pocket. The concealed carry pocket on this bag is in the seam. So here we've got a way that you can get in, get out. The pattern has just one zipper on one side, but you could certainly put a second one on the other side if you would like. If you'd like to make it that you could get into the pocket from either side, that is definitely possible. The other thing is we have a snap closure at the top. Of course, we have these great grommets and gate closure, snap closure rings. You can either have the bag facing to the inside, or you could have these side seams going to the outside, either way. On the inside, we have a zipper pocket on one side, and then on the other side, we have a divided slip pocket that actually has three slip pocket areas because it's nice and big. So we're going to go over pattern pieces. This is the faux leather we have in the chocolate brown. We have some of the, this is a brown. I'm going to link all this below, but it's some of our swirl design. And then of course we're using the ginger linen lining. All of the hardware is from my site. You can get these amazing grommets, which I will show you how to install. They're pushed together. You just need a mallet. It's together, no screws. And everything else I think is pretty good. I'm going to try to link things as I go. On the bottom of the video, and let's get going, go over pattern pieces. We're going to start with pattern pieces. So the first thing we have is a couple of zipper tabs, and this is going to be for the exterior zipper pocket. We, of course, have zippers. We have 3 zippers. On the bottom main panel, you have one panel. I already put my Decaville Heavy on the bottom, or on the back of this. So she says to take 2 layers of Peltex or Decaville Heavy, put them together, and then attach them to the bottom of the bag in the center. And you see, you have a lot more room on the sides here than you do, middle. So I went ahead and centered it, fused it on, added my feet, as you can see, and then from here, we're going to add the foam. Now the foam is about the same size, it's just outside the seam allowances as the bottom panel. I don't have fusible foam. I like to use the Annie Soft and Stable. So what I used this time is Heat and Bond. And if you're not familiar with Heat and Bond, I don't know if you can tell, probably can't on this side. But it's a product that you iron on, and then you peel the paper off, and then you have this side here. This is not sticky yet, but it is a glue. So when I use my heat press and put that onto the bottom of the bag, it's going to stick. So it's a way to make your foam fusible without having fusible foam. Okay, so I wanted to show you this process before I fused the foam on. I'm going to fuse the foam on before we begin. The other thing we have is a crossbody strap, which I've already made. This is a crossbody bag. So that's done, ready to go. You need an adjustable buckle or strap adjuster, and then you need 2 swivel clasps for that. I am going to put the Velcro on. So I have pieces of Velcro. I have my 2 concealed carry pocket pieces. Now I'm using a waterproof canvas for this. She suggests using a heavy canvas, which for me the waterproof canvas is perfect. One of them does not have foam, the other one does. And what I did with this foam is I just sewed it on, because this is a pocket inside. You're not going to see it. I'm fine with sewing that on. It stays well. It's good to go. Okay, from there we have, make sure I keep all my pieces straight. We have 2 gusset pieces. And Gail says doesn't suggest putting any kind of foam or stabilizer on these, so I'm not going to. So we'll see. This is my first time making the bag, so we'll see how that goes. I'm sure it'll be fine. She knows what she's doing. We have a front main panel top, and we have a front main panel bottom. The zipper is going to go right in between these 2 pieces. I went ahead and used my heat and bond to put foam on both of these. She recommends foam, so we're using foam. Then I have my main back panel piece. And this is just one large piece. And again, I use the heat and bond to get the foam on. Now, I am going to say that if the pattern is written for number 3 zippers, I'm going to use number 5. So I suspect what's going to happen is once I get my zipper in my front panel, it's going to throw it off just a little bit because the number 3 zipper is not as wide as the number 5 zipper. And if so, I'll just have to trim it down. We'll see how that works out. We have our exterior zipper pocket, which is one large piece. On all of my lining, I'm using linen, and I am putting some woven interfacing on the back of all those pieces. We have our zipper pocket panels for our interior. We have 2 of those, and we're going with a slightly lighter color on those, just for fun. We have a interior slip pocket, one large piece. We have 2 gusset lining trim pieces. This is the interior gusset lining, basically the upper lining. We have 2 of those. We have 2 gusset lining pieces, shorter because our upper lining is going to go on the top. We have 2 upper lining main pieces. Okay, again, nothing on the back of these. We have 2 main lining pieces. So 2. And again, woven interfacing on the back of both of those. And then we have 1 bottom panel piece in lining. Woven interfacing on the back. For hardware, we're going to use some of our grommets. These are our push-in grommets. We also have a couple of the gate rings that we're going to use to put the handle on, and gate rings are the kind that have the spring action here. And then we also have a magnetic snap. And of course, like I said before, our zippers. Okay, so let's go ahead and get stitching. Okay, the first step is to get the bottom done, which is what we did ahead of time. So as I said, I went ahead and put the Decoville heavy 2 layers of it at the bottom, put my feet on, and then I went ahead and infused my foam on. So that's completed, and we're going to set that aside for just a minute. We're going to take one of our longer zippers, and we are going to measure the zipper and mark it. So actually, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to put my zipper pull on first before I forget. That won't be good. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and put one of these zipper tabs right sides together with the zipper. I'm going to start there. We're going to go ahead and stitch this. And in this pattern, the seam allowance is a 1/2 inch, unless otherwise noted. So we're doing a 1/2 inch here. From here, we're essentially just going to flip this back, and we'll top stitch it. And then we're going to measure from this point, and Gail gives us an amount to measure. I'm going to mark it, and then I am going to place the other tab at that mark. Okay, just like that. So you see the zipper, I think she says like a 12-inch zipper, but she gives you a little extra. The zipper is going to end up being a little bit shorter than that. So let's go ahead and stitch that on. And again, I'm going to cut that off so I can see my seam allowance. And then again, a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then we'll fold it back and top stitch. Okay, from here, find the center of the zipper, including the tabs. So put your tabs together, and then you can either make a tiny little clip, or you can mark this with a fabric pen, whatever is easiest for you. And then we're going to take our bottom front panel, and we're going to place this zipper right side down. Now I want my zipper closing to the left, so I'm going to first of all find the center of this, match up the centers, and then we'll stitch this on. Now you can either use some double-sided tape here to hold it, or you can baste this on. I usually use double-sided tape, so for a change I'll just go ahead and baste. And I'm just going to baste using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Move my zipper pull. And then from here, we're going to take our pocket piece, which is this long piece. We're going to find the center, and we're going to put the center of a short side. We're going to put it right side down on top of the zipper. And we're going to clip. And you're going to see the pocket is not as wide as the main part of the bag. Okay, so we are now going to stitch this using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Get my zipper pull out of the way, and 1/4 inch. Okay, from here we're going to turn this. And we're going to top stitch. Now when we top stitch, we're going to top stitch all the way from this edge to the other edge, not just between the zipper, but actually the whole thing. Okay, so from here, you're going to take the bottom part of the pocket and you're going to match it up with the top of the zipper. And just to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and find my center so I can match them up. Just to make sure my pocket doesn't go cattywampus. So I'm going to match the center. And then clip in place. And then I'm going to take my upper piece, find the center, and click that on top. Now if you want to baste the other in place first, you can certainly do that. Or if you want to use some double-sided tape here. I'm going to move my pole out of the way. And then we're going to stitch this on using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Move my zipper pole. Then we're going to flip this up and we're going to top stitch. Now you're going to see that your pocket's peeking out. That's okay. It is supposed to. From here we need to sew the side of the pocket. So we're just going to pull this up and go ahead and stitch these sides closed. I'm going to stitch from the bottom up because that will allow me to get closer to this edge here. Okay, and then we have our pocket completed. So we're going to set this aside for just a minute and we're going to work on our conceal carry pocket. So I have my 2 pocket pieces, and of course one has the foam and one does not. I'm also going to take my Velcro pieces, and you can put Velcro on both sides. I think that I'm just going to put it on the side with the foam, just thinking about how I want that pocket to open and where I want that Velcro to be. So the Velcro has got a sticky back, and you can measure, but I'm just going to set this down what looks like to be about the center and line them up so it's 4 by 4. And then we're going to stitch this on. Now, in addition to going around the sides, because I have 2 pieces of Velcro here, I'm also going to go down the middle where they're open here in the center. All right, so from the back you can see that stitching better than the front, obviously, because of the Velcro. So you see how that's just all sewn on there. So now we're going to take our back panel and work on putting this pocket together. So figure out which side you want your zipper on. I want my zipper on, considering this is going to be the back of the bag, this is going to be the part of the bag that's against my body. So I think I want the zipper on the front, not the back. So that means it's going to be over here on this side. So she has you fold this over. Now because I'm using a faux, it's not going to, I don't want to iron it. So I'm just going to know that I'm basically going to fold it right around this when I put my zipper on, right around this foam. And I'm going to draw a line from the top side. I'm going to come down, draw a line in that seam allowance. Okay, this is, she's giving you the measurements in the pattern. And then I'm also going to measure one more time coming down. Okay, so now I have 2 marks. This is where my zipper is going to go, is right there between the 2 marks. I'm also going to take one of the gusset pieces, and you figure I'm going to have right sides together, so it'll go this way. And I'm going to make the same marks. I'm just going to line these up. And a mark's going to go here, and a mark's going to go here. Now we are going to use some double-sided tape for this because it is going to make it easier. So grab some 1/8 of an inch, grab double-sided tape. And we're going to place it basically between the 2 marks. I'm just going to kind of guesstimate. If it goes a little further, it's not a problem. Okay. Take a zipper, and this is going to be the smaller of the zippers. I'm going to wait to put the zipper pull on until after I'm through sewing it. I'm going to take the backing off the tape and I'm going to place the zipper on here. Now, the zipper is going to be longer than where you put your tape and longer than your marks. So just, I got to look at it, let me put it this way. So just go ahead and set it down. Don't pull on it. Make sure that the long edges line up. And then just make sure that the zipper is within your marks. We're going to take the pocket piece, that does not have the foam, and we're going to lay it right side down, or on the zipper, or right sides together with this main, however you want to look at it, this main back piece. Okay, we're going to peel the backing off the tape. We're going to lay it down right on top. Okay, just like that. So now using a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, I'm going to turn this over so I can see my marks. I'm going to go ahead and stitch from mark to mark. And I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance here. So I stopped at the other mark, so I just stitched right between. Okay, so you can see just between marks and on the back. Now we're going to fold this, and it says to press, but again I can't press. I've got waterproof canvas and faux, so it's not going to be a good thing for me to do. I'm just going to kind of do a little finger press here. So we're going to put double-sided tape on this side of the zipper, and actually, to make it a little easier on myself, I'm going to put it on the gusset. So again, I see where my marks are on my gusset. That's where I'm going to put the double-sided tape, is right between these 2 marks on the right side. So you could transfer the marks to the right side if you like. I'm just gonna guesstimate where that is. Okay, so it looks like I have that done. I'm going to pull the backing off and line it up on the zipper. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure that my zipper is between the two marks, but I also want to make sure that the top of the gusset is even with the top of the bag. So it's kind of where I'm going to start. Make sure that's even, and then I will start putting the zipper down on the gusset. And again, don't pull. You just want to lay it down. I'll turn this over so I can see it better and you can see it better. Okay. And then I'm going to put one more row of double-sided tape. And now we're going to lay the pocket with the foam right on top. Now, in this case, we don't want to match it with the top of the bag. We want to match it with the top of the pocket. So we want the pockets to be even with each other here. Okay. And if you want to clip in addition to the tape or instead of the tape, you can certainly do that. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this over so I can see my marks, and I'm going to stitch on my gusset from mark to mark. And I can see when I do that, that my top gusset is a little bit higher than my bag. I didn't line that up very well, so I'm going to move it down just a hair. Sometimes you've got, I don't want to say bulk here, but you have the zipper that kind of pulls away, and it's easier said than done to line this stuff up. So just take your time with it, and if you need to unstick and reline up, no problem. And now it looks like I'm off a little bit in the other direction. So let's do it again. As I've often said, sewing is not a race. So make sure we do a good job. Okay, so that's a lot more even here. We should be good to go. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to stitch on the gusset from line to line. And again with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now when we look at this is the right side of our bag. We have a zipper here on the side. Before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and add my zipper pull. And I want the pull to go from the bottom to the top. So I will just turn this around. And add it here. I always find it's easier to add the pull after you sew the zipper on to avoid any kind of strange bubbles if possible. You know, sometimes you have to, like when we did the front zipper pocket, you have to put the pull on first. But if I can manage to wait, I usually do. Okay, so here's what we have so far. Some of my pen on there. Okay, from here the instructions say to go ahead and open up this pocket. Okay, so you have one pocket piece on this side, you have one pocket piece on this side. And what she suggests is that you take and fold this gusset over just a little bit to hide the zipper, and you fold this top panel over just a little bit so that basically it meets in the middle and the zipper is hidden. Because, and she suggests just pressing it and not top stitching. So because I have faux, I can't press, and waterproof canvas, I cannot press. So that is out for me. What I need to decide is from here, do I want to just kind of try to clip or use some double-sided tape to hold this in place and top stitch? Or do I want to just leave it? So I think what I'm going to do is just leave it. We'll see how it goes. Because when we're through, essentially this is what we're going to have. You're going to see the zipper. It won't be hidden, but I think it'll be okay. So we're going to flip both the gusset and the back panel out of the way, and now we want to go ahead and clip our pocket together and sew it together. So just throw some clips on here. And we're going to don't start at the very edge. So what I mean by that is don't try to take your pocket pieces and push them together right here and start at the edge. You're going to start about a ½ inch away, and then you're going to stitch all the way around the pocket, and you're going to stop about a ½ inch from the edge up here as well. Okay, so now our pocket is sewn. We will deal with this part here later. And we have part of our gusset sewn on. So before we proceed, we want to go ahead and sew our bottom panel on. So we're going to start by matching these edges here. So you have the bottom panel, right sides together with the back panel. I'm going to clip in place. I'm going to take my pockets out of the way, and we're going to stitch this on. Okay, so this time we are going to stitch all the way to the edge here. So just move your zipper and your gusset and your pocket, all this out of the way. We are going to open this up. We want the seam allowance to be going towards the bottom panel, and we're going to top stitch on the bottom panel. Okay, we're going to take our front piece. We want to make sure we move our pocket piece out of the way, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to attach it to the bottom, the other side of the bottom panel. So I'll put some clips. And then once we stitch it on, we're going to do the same thing, top stitch with the seam allowance going towards the bottom panel. So open this up, making sure my pocket is still out of the way, and I want to top stitch on the bottom panel. So I'm going to make sure my seam allowance is going towards the bottom, and we will top stitch. And you see we got a kind of an awkward thing going on here. We have half of a gusset, we have a pocket, we have all kinds of things attached, but just go ahead and fold them out of the way. And top stitch. I'm just making sure my seam allowance is going in the right direction. Okay, so from here, this is what we have. We have our bottom, we have our front and our back, half of a gusset, and a pocket all attached. We want to go ahead and attach the rest of this gusset first. So I'm going to find the center of the bottom of this gusset. I had already marked the center of my bottom when I put my stabilizer on, so I know where that is. And we are going to go ahead and attach all of this together. So to do that, hold on, let me get this so you can see it. We want to attach the gusset to the front of the bag now. So we're going to have to kind of push this zipper out of the way to do that and attach it just like this. That's the reason why she had you fold and press this seam, is because essentially these two pieces are going to meet and it's going to pull in together anyway. So just kind of keep that in mind as you make that decision as to whether or not to top stitch or press or whatnot. Here is you are eventually going to have your gusset and your front piece come together. Okay. So I am going to actually clip it here in the center first. And then just try to work this around. And you're going to have to make small clips in your straight line. So make your straight piece, which essentially is this bottom of the bag. You have a curved gusset, right? But you have a straight piece here. This piece can't curve like this because we cut it straight. So in order to allow it to do that, we're going to have to make small little relief clips to get that done. So let me go ahead and clip the top here. So this is the top of the gusset to the other side. This will just kind of help me bring this around and figure out exactly where I need to make those snips. Okay, so right here, you see I have all of this and it's not going to match up unless I make snips. So don't go the whole seam allowance. You want to go about maybe like 1/4 of an inch and just make little snips. And then once you do that, this will separate. Turn this so you can see. See, these will separate. You're going to see those little V's open up and fit right around that curve. Okay, so see how the little of these here open up? That's how you make that fit. Strong clip on that. So one of the things, and this is true, is your clips kind of weaken over time. So if you feel like your clips are breaking a lot or that they're not holding as well, it's probably true. It's not you. They really are. And sometimes you just need to go ahead and get new clips. Okay, so there's half of it. So now we need to make clips over here on this side to get the rest of this matching. So when we go to put this together, let's ignore the fact that this pocket is here and that this zipper is here. I'm just going to pull that out of the way. And we want to go ahead and clip this together. So this is the gusset in the upper part of the bag. This at the top. And all we're going to do to stitch this part of the gusset on is just stitch right here and stitch to our mark. Remember that mark we made in the beginning? That's where we're going to start stitching. Same thing here at the bottom. We're going to be pulling the pocket and the zipper out of the way, and we're going to start at that start at that mark. Stitch, and then keep going around. Okay? And put a super strong clip here. And then we'll make our snips to get this eased in. So again, I'm snipping the actual bag bottom, not the gusset. Okay, so I am going to start over here at the top. I'm going to get that top sewn, that way that will be done. And then I will pick up over here at this side and go ahead and stitch a few stitches to make sure that this is held, and then the rest of the gusset should be fairly easy. I always like to stitch with the gusset up, so really I want to start over here on this side and stitch all the way around, but that's what I want to do, but I really need to start where these zippers are first, get that secure, and then finish up. So, start here. I'm going to flip this around. I'm going to pull the zipper and the pocket out of the way. I'm going to put my needle in right at that mark and stitch up. And it's going to be hard to see with the close-up camera, but hopefully you can see it in the larger camera here. Okay, so that part's done. So from the front, here's what it looks like. You can see that zipper just disappears right into that seam. So let's do the same thing here. I'm just going to take this pocket as best I can and pull it away, starting at that mark I made, and stitch down probably to the other side of this clip. And then I'm going to stop. Everything underneath there. Go ahead and get my needle in at that mark. Okay. So now around the zipper is secure. That's going to be the hardest part. Let's look at it to make sure that we're happy with what it looks like from the front. So the top looks good. Let's make sure the bottom looks okay as well. Sorry, I know this is hard to see. It looks fine. It's in there. This thing keeps falling down on me. Okay, so the bottom looks good as well. I hope you can see that in there. All right, so now I'm going to start at the other side and finish sewing this gusset on. Okay, here we go. These clips do not want to stay on this gusset. Now 2 layers of Decoville Heavy does make this bottom really stiff. All right, we're coming up to the zipper area. And this pocket is in my way, so let me try to get that out of the way. See my stitches right here that I need to stitch to. All right, let's see how that did. So let me, before I trim this, let's poke it out and see what it looks like. Okay, looks good. Okay, so there is that sewn on there. We have our zipper ending where we combined our gusset with our front, or back I should say. And we have our pocket. Looking good. Okay, so that right there was the hardest thing. So let's get the other gusset on. It will be a breeze. Compared to this, I can tell you. All right, gusset. Let's mark the center. Let's go ahead and clip the centers together of the bottom and the gusset. And then clip our tops. Now we still have this pocket here. Let's kind of get that out of the way. And then here in the corner, we're going to go ahead and make some snips. And then we'll put the other side together. Match the tops first. Okay, and then here again, we're going to have to make some snips. Okay, and then we're going to sew this gusset on. So again, I'm going to sew it from the gusset side. So I'm just going to open this up like this and sew starting up here. So the thing that I think makes this a little bit difficult is the fact that you've got 2 layers of Decaville Heavy or Peltex in the bottom, so it doesn't collapse really well for you to get around the bottom section. So maybe try 1 layer if you think this is going to give you a problem. I would definitely do the foam. I would just do maybe, like I said, instead of layering 2 Peltex or Decaville Heavy, just do the 1. So I do want to trim the seam allowance back, especially in this curve area. I want to look at it first and make sure it looks okay. Actually, it looks like I've got a little tuck right here, right in the corner where that Peltex comes. Let me take that out and try that again. So basically what has happened is right where that Peltex intersects the on the bottom of the bag where the Peltex is, I had a tiny little tuck there. So I'm just trying to figure out how to work that out, because it's hard to lay this flat. And of course the fact that I'm using a faux leather instead of cotton canvas or something of the like does not make this easier, so keep that in mind too. Sometimes our fabric choices are little. I think that fixed it. Okay, that looks a lot better. So I'm going to cut this seam allowance back. I'm not going to cut it back here at the very, very top. I'm going to leave this so I can open up the seam allowance easily when I go to sew it all together. So I'm going to start about 1 inch down. And then make sure you trim back around these curves really well. And trim the other side, but remember your other side has the zipper, so you're really only going to trim the side that was sewn. And around the bottom curve. Okay, I think we got it. So let's turn this, and we still have this pocket here, that's okay. All right. So that is our exterior. So we need to now go ahead and baste this pocket in place. So we're going to baste it at the top. Go ahead and put some clips in here. And I want to align it to the top of the pocket if we can. We're not going to sew it, we're not going to baste it all the way to the edge here. We're going to kind of fold these out of the way. Fold them on the inside like this out of the way, and then we will baste that down right there. So let me take your sides of your pocket and just fold it under, and then we're going to baste. So from the inside, I'm just going to run a basting stitch right along the top here so that this pocket stays in place. Okay, so that is the front of our bag. So I'm going to make sure I put my bag tag on there. Here we have the inside. We have the back with the zipper pocket. Again, looking good. All right, so let's move on to the lining. The first thing we're going to do on the lining is the zipper pocket. And I like to do zipper pockets using a zipper overlay. So I cut an extra piece here. This is 10 inches long by 2 inches tall, and it has a 1/2 inch box cut out of the center. I put 1/4 inch double-sided tape along both long edges, and I marked the center of my main lining piece. I'm going to peel the backing off of this tape and center this down. And Gail does give us a measurement as far as how far to put this down in the pattern. She has you do your pocket piece a little bit different. She has you taking the actual pocket and drawing this box on top of the wrong side, like this, stitching it on, and then pushing it to the back and ironing, and then sewing it together. If y'all have watched my videos before, you know I don't particularly like to do pockets that way, so I'm just going to add this overlay on, and it'll be fine. So we're going to first stitch around the outside, and just using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Stick my tag in here. Okay, from here we're going to cut the center out of this box. And when you do that, you don't have to be neat about it. You don't have to try to get it exactly to the edge of the cutout. You just want to make sure it is beyond that so that you cannot see the lining from the right side. Okay, then you're going to take your 2 pocket pieces, and set this aside for just a minute, and we're going to sew the zipper onto it. So take your last zipper piece and put the wrong side of the zipper against the right side of the pocket, and we're going to stitch. From here you want to flip this so the zipper tape is laying nice and flat, and we're going to top stitch. Now take the other side of the zipper, place it on the other pocket piece with the wrong side of the zipper against the right side of the pocket, and stitch. And then once again, we're going to make sure that that zipper tape is laying flat, and we're going to top stitch. Okay, from here, go ahead and add your zipper pull. And then we're going to put some double-sided tape along the edge of this zipper tape and center it in the hole. So I usually run the tape right along the edge, the zipper tape, and that keeps it out of the window. And then you're going to, I want to make sure my zipper closes to the left, although that is personal preference. We're going to center this right inside of here. And then we're going to stitch around the inside of this rectangle. Okay, from here, we are going to, on the back side, go ahead and fold our upper pocket down towards our lower pocket. And whenever you do your zippers this way, you're always going to have extra at the bottom, and it's going to be a little over an inch. Just want to cut that off. And just like on the front, our zipper pocket is going to peek down below the main part here a little bit, but we have our bottom piece to put on as well, so that will be okay. So we're going to leave the bottom of the zipper pocket open so we can turn the bag. So from the front, just pull the zipper away, and we're going to stitch. Make sure you back stitch really well over the zipper and at the bottom. Do the same thing on this side. And then if you have extra, like I do, I'm just going to go ahead and cut that off so it doesn't get in the seam allowance of my gusset. Okay, and our zipper pocket is completed. So let's set this aside, and we're going to work on our slip pocket. So the slip pocket is one large piece. That's actually my bottom. Let me get my slip pocket. Hold on. Okay. So we are going to fold it wrong sides together, and we're going to stitch. So you can press this, and then I'm going to top stitch right across the top. Okay, from here, we're going to lay it on our other main piece. It's going to line up perfectly, and we can divide this pocket. So she suggests dividing it in 3, which I do like that. So I'm going to make some measurements and go ahead and draw some lines. It didn't draw. Let me try that again. There we go. Clip this in place, and we're going to stitch around the sides and then up these 2 division lines to divide the pocket. We're just basting this on place. I'm going to come over 1 stitch and then come back down. Go to the other division pocket. Do 1 stitch and then come back down. And there we have our slip pocket completed. Okay, with our 2 lining pieces done, we're now going to sew our upper lining on. So go ahead and clip the upper lining to each of these panels. We're going to stitch and then we're going to turn and top stitch. So as you turn this, make sure your upper lining stays, your seam allowance stays towards your upper lining, or we're going to top stitch on the upper lining. We're going to repeat this exact same process for the gusset pieces. So we have our upper lining, I'm going to clip, and then we're going to stitch and top stitch. Okay, this bag closes with a magnetic snap, so we need to go ahead and put the magnetic snap on the top. So find the center of both of your longer pieces. And then on the wrong side, I am going to mark. Now, Gail says to mark 1 inch down. I'm going to mark 1.5 inches. I think that's going to be a little bit more centered. Actually, let's make it 1 3/8 inches. I think 1 inch is going to be a little too shallow. 1 3/8 inches. And I'm sure it's not going to be too shallow. I shouldn't say that. Just for my liking, I like to let my snaps down a little bit further. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark where the snap goes. Now you want to cut a couple pieces of either Peltex or Deco Heavy, something to put behind these snaps so that it doesn't pull through or stretch out your faux or whatever material you're using. So I'm just going to mark a couple pieces of Deco Heavy. And go ahead and cut them. You put your snap, then your stabilizer, and then fold these down. And I like to also go over and hit them with a hammer a couple times just to make sure they're in there really good. All right, so I'm going to go set these and then we'll move on. Okay, these are set and ready to go. I'm just going to put some double-sided tape on the back to protect, kind of holds it in place and it protects your fabric on the other side from it rubbing. So let me just make sure this looks good. And I think, excuse me, I think we're good to go. All right, so now we need to add our bottom. So we're going to add our bottom and our gussets in exactly the same way we did for the main part of the bag. But on one of these, we do not want to sew the bottom all the way because we're going to pull our bag through. I'm going to sew this side first. I think that the side with your pocket is going to be easier to sew all the way across, and the side with your zipper pocket we're just going to sew a portion of so we can pull the bag through. That's for a couple of reasons. One, because it's going to be easier for us to get through here to sew this together on the zipper pocket side. And also you've got a couple of layers of thickness here and it's going to be harder to stitch that, I think, from the wrong side as you're turning than it is to stitch it from this side all the way across. So let's stitch. And then we're going to turn it so the seam allowance is going towards the bottom. And we're going to top stitch, just like we did on the main part of the bag. Now, when we go to sew the other side, we're not going to be able to top stitch, so just kind of keep that in mind. I'm fine with that. If that's going to bother you, you may want to turn your bag through your zipper pocket, although I think that's going to be, for me, a little difficult because I'm using faux instead of canvas, cotton canvas. All right, so I'm going to take the other side, make sure I flip my pocket out of the way, and I'm going to clip. Lining everything up. And as I said, I'm just going to stitch about, maybe 1.5 inches on each side here. So now we need to go ahead and put our gussets in. So I'm going to find the center of my bottom. Make sure all my seams line up. I'm going to find the center of the gusset. Okay, and then we're going to put these gussets in. So clip the bottom first. And then go ahead and clip top. You want to make sure your seams match up where your upper linings meet. And then we're going to have to clip our bottom of our bag, not our gusset. So I'm just going to put a few little snips in here. Do the same thing on this side. And we're going to stitch this in. Just ran out of bobbin. Had a feeling that was going to happen. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and switch my bobbin out, and then I'm going to finish up sewing this gusset, and then I'm going to sew the other one on exactly the same way, and then we'll come back and put the entire bag together. Okay, we have the lining completed, and I do have the spot open down there for turning. So I'm going to take the main part of my bag and let's see, put it in this way. So I'm just making sure the zippers pockets are not next to each other. And then from here we're going to go ahead and clip the top of the bag. So open up your seam allowances and go ahead and clip. Make sure that this side lines up. And then just go all the way around, clipping the top of the bag. Okay, we're now going to stitch this using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Making sure my seam allowances stay open. And then as I stitch, I'm just rolling the bag towards me so that I always have a straight line in front of me as I'm stitching. Now when I get up to where my conceal pocket is, I am grabbing the conceal pocket as I stitch. So we had basted it to the top of the bag, so now as we're stitching around the top of the bag, we're stitching it again. Almost where we started. Okay, before I turn this, I am going to, and Gail does not say to do this, but I am going to go ahead and just trim back the conceal carry pocket section. Remember, I had basted it to the top, so I'm just going to take that apart. And then I'm just going to clip not the top of the bag itself, but just the pocket to get that bulk out of the seam allowance. Okay, and that's just going to help when we turn it. So let's go ahead and turn it. So I'm going to reach in where I left my opening, the bottom of the lining, or really kind of the side of the lining. Pull this out. Now if you do this the way Gail says to do it, you'll be pulling this out through the pocket, the zipper pocket. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and fold this. Stick all the lining inside. I'm going to fold along our upper lining and the exterior of our bag and clip that all the way around. If you need to reach inside and push the seam out a little bit, you can certainly do that. Like right here on the side seams, I'm going to need to do that. And then you can roll it to make sure that the actual stitch is at the top of the seam. And then just clip all the way around. Okay, so from here we're going to top stitch. And a couple things. I like the fact that I put my snap further down. I think I could have gone even a little bit further down. I think that 1.5 inches would have been perfect. Gail does suggest stitching this at 1/4 inch at the top stitch line here instead of 1/8 of an inch, and I think that's probably a good idea just because you have some foam here and it's kind of thick, especially here on the back. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to stitch it here at this machine, and I'm going to stitch it from the inside just so you can see how that's done. I know a lot of you have cylinder arm machines, but some of you don't. And this bag is big enough. Actually, this bag is big enough to stitch. I'll do that. I'll stitch it from the outside. But, you know, it's not the end of the world if you have to stitch it from the inside. So I'm just going to try to lay this as flat as I can, and from the right side go ahead and stitch around. I am going to start here at one of the side seams. And as I said, I'm going to stitch it at 1/4 of an inch instead of 1/8 of an inch. Just always make sure that you have a good, long, straight stitch ahead of you, or straight line ahead of you to stitch. And just maneuver the bag however you need to get that done. So I'm stitching over where my concealed pocket is now, so I'm going to have a little bit more thickness here. All right, we are top stitched. Okay, so now that the bag is top stitched, I am going to open up my zipper pocket, pull my zipper pocket out. I'm then going to reach inside the bag and pull out the seam that I need to finish out in here, which is kind of, it's the bottom, but it's not the very bottom, it's where the bottom attaches to the side of the bag. Pull that out. And I am going to clip and then we're going to stitch that. So I'm going to pick up right where I left off, make sure I have a nice straight line in front of me to stitch. And what you see me clipping here is I had stitched that seam down, and I'm just kind of opening that back up so that I can stitch to the original seam where I started. So let me show you what I mean by that. When I stitched the gusset on, this seam where the bottom and the side came together was stitched down. So as I tried to open this up to meet my stitches, I was having a hard time. So I had to clip it so that I could lay it flat and match my stitches as best I could. So you may have to do that too. I'm going to put that lining back inside the bag and then pull this zipper pocket out and just go ahead and do a little fold under. All right, we're going to stitch this closed. All right, we'll stick the pocket back in and push it down in the corners. And now we have to punch the holes and put the grommets in. Pretty sure the last bag we did with American Stitchers had the same thing, if I remember right. So let me go ahead and get this lining down in there. Okay. All right, so from here, let's go ahead and get these grommets in. So we have 4 grommets we need to install. What we want to do is to measure. I'm going to try to flatten this out as best I can here. Measure from these side seams and from the top, a 1/2 inch in and a 1/2 inch down. So let me get my silver marking pen and a ruler. And 1/2 inch in, 1/2 inch down. Is right there. That's where the center of the grommet needs to go. And I'm going to come down just a little bit. I'm sorry, that's not where the center, that's where the edge of the grommet needs to go. So you want to be a 1/2 inch in from this side and a 1/2 inch down from this side. If you want, you could actually draw a line. And then you know right there is where the grommet needs to go. Now, if you are using, well, you have to use these O-rings. You want to make sure that you're not going to be so deep that your O-rings, your spring rings won't work. So she gives you the proper measurement, but if you don't have that, if you're improvising, make sure that you don't go down, because if you go down super deep on this, you're not going to be able to get your ring on. Okay. So once you figure out exactly where this needs to go, you just need to draw the circle of the grommet. Okay. And then that's where we're going to cut. So there's a couple different ways you can cut the holes. You can use a larger punch tool like this, which you can get from Tandy Leather, Springfield Leather, District Leather, excuse me, Buckle Guy, you know, anything like that. Or you can take one of these kits you get from Amazon, and there is a 1/2 inch rounded punch for it as well. Now make sure that obviously your grommets are 1/2 inch, which they should be. If you get them from us, they are. So that will match exactly right. So I'm going to use the larger one. And I'm just going to lay it down. Make sure my cutting board is under there. Put this right over the circle and hit it. It's going to go right through. We're going to have a nice hole. From there, you're going to take the front of your grommet, which is the part that has the higher ridge here. That's going to go on the front. the back of the grommet has got the smaller ridge. You're going to stick that right on top and kind of just give it a little push. And then you're going to take your mallet and just hammer that in. Once the bottom ridge meets the top, you know it's set. Okay, so I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to install one here on this side and then two on this side, and then we will connect our O-rings and we'll be done. Okay, here is the completed bag, the Annie O by American Stitchers. It is a crossbody bag and it is a little bit larger of a bag. I really think she's got it labeled as intermediate, and I do think that that's a good representation. And the main reason is because of the way you have to sew the zipper pocket into the side seam. It does get a little tricky when you're trying to sew the gusset on. But other than that, everything else is pretty basic in the bag. Things you've done before, you could certainly master the bag. It is, as I said, a snap, but you could certainly add a zipper pocket if you'd like. Another thing is, instead of having the side gussets going to the inside, you could actually have them going to the outside and then put your O-rings on, your snap gate rings. So either way, that would obviously make it a little bit larger, a little bit wider. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, the Annie O by American Stitchers, and until next time everybody, happy sewing.